when it comes to negotiations, negotiating can be very intense and intimidating, and you want someone who is on your side and who will help you through that process. So please, all right, Leasing Commercial Real Estate, episode 3. In this episode, we are going to discuss lease negotiations. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of how it all works. Now, I want you to know that this is a leasing commercial real estate for beginners, so I'm not going to go into crazy depths of all of the lease negotiations because we'll be here for a year, but I'm going to discuss the main points of a lease negotiation and what you should look out for when you're going through the leasing process. However, I have another caveat for you, and I hope that this is getting drilled into your head. Starting on the first episode to right now, you should have hired a tenant rep broker, because especially when it comes to negotiations, negotiating can be very intense and intimidating, and you want someone who is on your side and who will help you through that process. So please hire a tenant rep broker when you're going through the leasing stage of commercial real estate. It will benefit you so much in the long run. Not only are they there through this whole process, they're there for you throughout your whole lease term, keeping in touch, making sure everything's going the way it was negotiated. And you want that. You need that as a business because you're busy running your business. So please, if you take anything from this series, take anything from every single episode, this episode, hiring a tenant rep broker will make your life so much easier. So do it. Do it. With all that being said, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell, and let's dive in. So before we dive into the different steps of the lease negotiation process, it always starts like this. So you've toured the location, right? You started your search, you've visited the property, hopefully with a tenant rep, and now you have nailed down the location that you want to move into, that you want to lease for the next 3 to 5 years. Well, the first step is always getting a proposal out. And the proposal is where the lease negotiations happen. Or in other words, it may be called a letter of intent or an LOI. So after you've decided the property that you want to move into, before you start the lease negotiations, you must write up a proposal. This is a proposal telling the landlord that you want to lease the building that he owns. And in the proposal are all of the details that need to be negotiated so that when the final lease comes, it's all of the hard work has been done in the proposals as they've gone back and forth between listing broker and tenant rep broker. And then the lease is written up. We'll talk about that next video. And you sign it and you're good to go and you're ready to move in to your location. But before we dive in, we need to talk, right? Proposals. The proposal's ready. Now, how do we negotiate? So here we go. So the first step is negotiating the lease length. The lease length is one of the most important lease terms to negotiate when renting commercial real estate. It's because it is the amount of time that the tenant is committing to renting the space. It can range from a few months to several years, depending on the needs of the tenant and the landlord. But there's a caveat here. Most landlords are not willing to do month to month, are not willing to do even a year lease. If you are looking to lease commercial real estate, especially here in Southern California, you have to be prepared to at least sign a 2-year, maybe even a 3-year lease, at least, to move into a location. So that's important to know because, of course, yes, a shorter lease length provides flexibility for tenants and allows you to move to different spaces if you need change. But a lot of landlords will not allow that short of a lease. Also, shorter leases may come with higher rental rates and less stability. as a tenant may have to renegotiate the lease frequently. I mean, if you think about it, if you watch my other video on lease renewals, the lease renewal process starts anywhere from 8 to 24 months out. And if you're only in a building for a year or a month to month, how do you renegotiate? You have to go through the whole process again you just went through, you know? So that's why landlords, most of them are willing to do a 3 to 5 year. By some, I mean a very small percentage are willing to do 2-year leases, but no, almost none are willing to do a 1-year lease when it comes to a lease length. And so with longer leases, this also can bring a higher security deposit requirement, and it may limit the tenant's flexibility if their needs change over time. It's important for tenants to carefully consider their business needs and weigh the benefits and drawbacks of different lease lengths before negotiating the lease terms. The next step is to negotiate the rent amount. Negotiating the rent amount is one of the most critical aspects of any commercial lease negotiation. The rental rate is usually stated as a cost per square foot per year or per month, depending on which market you work in. It's essential to understand that the advertised rental rate may not be the final rate you end up paying. During the negotiation process, you can work with the landlord or their representative to arrive at a rental rate that is acceptable to both parties. Factors that may impact the final rental rate include, the location of the space, the condition of the property, the size of the space, and also the length of the lease. In addition to the base rental rate, there may be other expenses you'll need to factor in, such as common area maintenance fees, or better known as CAMs, property taxes, and insurance costs. I have made 3 different videos explaining the different types of leases. There's a full service gross lease, a modified gross lease, and a triple net lease. Please go back and watch those videos. It'll really help you identify and understand the different types of leases. So when you're working with a broker on negotiating the terms, you understand what costs come with those types of leases. Look, it's crucial to have a clear understanding of all the costs associated with the space before agreeing to the lease terms. Next step is to negotiate the different lease concessions or tenant incentives in a commercial real estate lease. These items include TIs, free rent, and early occupancy. TIs, or TIA, which stands for Tenant Improvements or Tenant Improvement Allowance, refers to the amount of money the landlord is willing to provide for tenant improvements or alterations to the space. This can include things like new flooring, painting, or building out walls. Negotiating a higher TIA can be beneficial for tenants who need to customize the space to meet their specific needs. Another item to consider is free rent, which refers to a period of time during which the tenant is not required to pay rent. This can be negotiated in exchange for taking an additional lease term length or as a concession from the landlord to incentivize the tenant to sign the lease. Free rent can be particularly helpful for tenants who need time to prepare the space for occupancy or who are facing financial constraints during the early stages of their business. The tenant's financials will be the determining factor in how many months they get free or if they get any months free at all. So it's important to understand the financial constraints that your company has and how maybe free rent would be a benefit for you. Last is early occupancy. This refers to the ability for the tenant to access the space before the official lease start date. This can be particularly helpful for tenants who need to install equipment, set up utilities, or make other preparations before officially opening for business. Negotiating early access can be a useful concession for landlords to offer in exchange for a longer lease term or other favorable terms. Look, overall, understanding And negotiating these additional items can help tenants secure a more favorable commercial lease and set their business up for success. Next step would be to negotiate the security deposit. The security deposit is a payment made by the tenant to the landlord at the start of the lease. It serves as a protection for the landlord against any damages or unpaid rent at the end of the lease term. The security deposit amount can vary depending on the landlord and the terms of the lease, but it is usually equal to 1 or 2 months' rent. In some cases, landlords may also require an additional pet deposit or a non-refundable cleaning fee. It's important to carefully review the terms of the security deposit in the lease agreement and to make sure you understand when and how it will be returned to you, as well as any other conditions or deductions that may be made from the deposit. For example, the landlord may deduct from the security deposit if there are damages to the property beyond normal wear and tear, or if rent is unpaid. Be sure to take photos and videos of the property before moving in and document any damages or issues that already exist. This can help protect you from any unfair deductions from the security deposit when you move out. Last item you should consider when negotiating a lease are renewal options. Renewal options are an important aspect to consider when negotiating a commercial lease agreement. Essentially, a renewal option is a clause in the lease that grants the tenant the right to extend the lease term for a specific period of time, usually 1 to 5 years after the initial lease term expires. Having a renewal option provides a tenant with flexibility and stability, allowing them to plan for the future and potentially avoid the costly and time-consuming process of finding a new space. The renewal option typically includes a specific time frame in which the tenant must notify the landlord of their intention to renew, as well as any conditions that must be met, such as being current on rent payments. However, it's important to carefully review the renewal option clause in the lease and negotiate any terms that may not be favorable to you as the tenant. For example, the landlord may include a rent increase or other conditions in the renewal option that can significantly impact your bottom line. Therefore, it's essential to work with your broker or attorney to ensure that the renewal option clause is fair and advantageous to you as the tenant. So there you have it. Leasing Commercial Real Estate for Beginners, Episode 3, Negotiating the Lease Terms. This is a critical step in securing the right commercial space for your business. It's important to understand the various terms and factors involved in the negotiation process, such as lease length, rent amount, tenant incentives, security deposit, and renewal options. By working with a broker, conducting thorough research, and being flexible, you can negotiate the best possible lease term for your business and ensure a successful and sustainable future. Remember, a well-negotiated lease can save you money in the long run and provide the foundation for a thriving business. And to do this, the best way would be to hire a tenant rep broker. So go and do it and let them take care of the negotiating process. Well, everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to episode 3 of the Leasing Commercial Real Estate for Beginners, a little series that I'm doing here on YouTube. Again, my name is Mason. I'm a tenant rep broker in the Southern California market, and I would love to help you if you are looking to rent or renew your lease. I work for a company called Cressa. We are a global company, so even though you're not in Southern California, you may be across America or another country. We have brokers all over that can help you with this process. So please reach out to me. All of my contact information is in the description below. I would be happy to help you. Book a call with me, and let's get you into your next commercial real estate space. And let's see your business thrive and grow together. So thanks so much again for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.